humans have essentially written with their thumbs. There's got to be a massive expansion of the brain's representation of the thumbs relative to 20, 30 years ago. But maybe now would be a good time to talk about risky behaviors or even just behaviors that are known to have some detriment to health. Smoking and vaping and cigarettes primarily. And we should be probably distinguishing between nicotine and cannabis. Maybe let's just start with nicotine. What are the statistics on smoking, vaping, and e-cigarettes? Just rough statistics. I saw a talk that you did online that cited some pretty outrageous increases in or shocking increases in smoking and vaping in the last couple of years. Just staggering. So maybe if you give us the top contour of those.
Sure, absolutely. So the good news is smoking rates. Conventional cigarette smoking rates has gone down pretty dramatically in the last couple of decades with teenagers, with all people in the U.S., which is wonderful, but teenagers to well below 10%, if not really well below 5% of teenagers. That's the good news. In terms of e-cigarette use, which I prefer the term e-cigarette use than vaping because they're not vapes, they're aerosols, but e-cigarette use has gone up pretty dramatically. So e-cigarettes came on the market in the U.S. in 2007, and they were slow for uptick amongst teenagers. They looked like cigarettes when they first came on the market. They weren't very popular with teenagers. They had some flavors, not a lot, didn't have a lot of nicotine. It was probably around 2011 to 2014 we started seeing an uptick, but then it was really in 2017 to 19 that we saw a dramatic increase. And that was the statistics there. We saw upwards of 27 to 29% of teens using e-cigarettes during those couple years.
Daily use?
Past 30 days. So any use in the past 30 days
was,
and daily use will be some smaller percentage of that. It was something like a 78% increase in high school student use and a 48% increase in middle school use over those couple of years. So a very dramatic increase in use. Since 2019, it's gone down, but I'm going to give a caveat. It's gone down in 2020 to the national numbers are showing. It went to around 20% and now around 10%. Part of that was in 2020, we had COVID. And initiation of e-cigarette use really occurs socially. And going back to socialization, it's a lot of teens getting together. And it's not peer pressure of you have to try. Come on, try this. It's more like my friends are using. I'm at a party. I feel like using. Yeah, I'll try it. Well, during the pandemic and the shutdown, teens were not at school. They weren't with their friends. So initiation went down. Teens who were addicted, and we can certainly talk about levels of nicotine in e-cigarettes, but teens who were addicted continues to use. Some try to quit, which was great, but we still saw a fair amount of use. So part of the decrease in those 2020 to 2021 have to do with just access and socialization had changed, and so rates went down. Since then, even we published a paper showing relationships between COVID and vaping. We saw EVALI, e-cigarette and vaping associated lung illness. So that we think was part of why we also saw further drops around 2021, but people were concerned about their lung health and teens as well, and that's great. The latest data show that the rates are under 10%, the national data. I actually don't think it's true. And the reason I don't think it's true is I'm in the schools doing curriculum presentations all the time where I teach and educate teachers to use our tobacco and cannabis prevention curriculums. And we've never been busier than we are right now with schools just crying for help. We have another group of teenagers using e-cigarettes, nicotine, or cannabis or whatever. It's way more than 10%. I would say schools are telling me it's 40 to 60% of their students are using e-cigarettes. So
for nicotine?
We don't know.
Or cannabis.
It's very hard to know. It's very hard to know what's in there. But
40 to 60%.
That's what the schools are saying.
At some point in the last 30 days.
At some point in the last 30 days. They're catching just exorbitant numbers of students using right now. And so from a science perspective, is it 10%, 20%, 30%? We don't know. I can just tell you that the national CDC data would say 10%, and maybe it's a problem with the surveys or the questions or teens aren't being honest. But from a school's perspective, it's much higher. And then we have some national data suggesting it's more in the 20 to 30 to 40% range as well. Whatever it is, it's too many. It's too many teens who are inhaling nicotine